Good morning. The things that are happening in our life today, especially with our politicians, you really can't make it up. Incredible. So today's title is We've Got Way Too Much BS in Our Life. When I was younger and growing up in Philadelphia, they used to have a saying, don't fall for the okey doke. Today, don't believe the BS. We'll be right back after this message, and it's some real stuff for you.
To small business. That's a great way to have generational wealth. If you're a minority business, you may be struggling to keep your head above water. Why? In 2019, the Black community spent $1.5 trillion because the Black dollar lifespan, 28 days Asian communities, 19 days Jewish communities, 6 hours a month in the Black communities. Major brands target the Black media, TV, and radio. That's why Blacks are brand shoppers. That's why they get a big slice of that $1 trillion pie. Your business needs exposure. You got quotes from cable networks and local radio. They charge a lot of money for a little exposure. Networking and social media is a full-time job to get part-time money. Let's look at a successful Black business model. Remember Soul Train? It was a new Black TV show that Johnson Cosmetics increased the exposure of Afro Sheen and made billions of dollars for Bobby Johnson. Where are you gonna find a good show for a low price? We have a talk show called What You Got to Say. What You Got to Say is a Black-owned talk show streaming live on YouTube channels, Facebook Live. What You Got to Say has a diverse audience from 18 to 62 years old, and their gross income range from $32,000 to $122,000 a year. That exposure will get you a good slice of the $1.5 trillion. Tell us about your business. May be able to get on our Black-owned spotlight. In 4 weeks, your business can go from surviving to thriving. To find out how you can get what's yours, email sales@squiresignage.com. They're waiting to hear what you got to say.
Our Father, which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done.
Yitkadal v'yitkadash shmei Rabbah, v'alma divra chirute v'yamlich malchute.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله.
Our often repeated prayers,
Although we may be different,
yet similar.
as we reach out to our Creator,
we offer all praise.
And we seek forgiveness.
we ask for peace in our hearts, in our minds, and in our spirits. Amen.
I can't believe the BS. So, this is how it started. Last night, the House voted to give medals to the Capitol and Washington police officers who defended them, who protect their lives, who were the only thing standing between them and an angry mob of insurrectionists who were going down yelling, "Hang Mike Pence and Pelosi, we're coming for you." 21 of 50 Republicans, 21 voted not to give medals to these officers. Shocking, isn't it? I mean, these guys who protect them, who put their lives on the line, where, 6 of them had given their lives, 21 voted not to give them a citation, a medal, an award, a thank you. Now, this is where the BS comes in. During the campaign of President Joe Biden, the nation was going through a bit of turmoil. We saw the George Floyd killing, which made global news. Americans were out there yelling Black Lives Matter and defund the police. Defund the police in terms of our government, our federal government, your federal tax dollars gives millions, millions of your tax dollars a day to your local police. They fund those police officers. So instead of the police officers doing things like increasing officers, increasing community events, having actual community policing, getting officers involved with things like town watch, neighborhood watch, knowing the community and the people that they serve, they spend that money on militarized equipment. That's why you see police officers looking more like Gulf War veterans and servicemen than they do looking like police officers. They have millions of dollars that they brought in tactical gear, not just vests, but really military used weapons of actually mass suppression or mass destruction for the citizens who pay their salaries. Now, during that time, the Trump campaign and the Republican minions, better known as the Cult of 45, they did massive ads linking Joe Biden to defund the police, which Joe Biden never said that he wanted to defund the police. Although Joe Biden is a big advocate of community policing and restructuring, changing our police officers from warriors back to being community police officers. They tried to pin that on him and saying that only the Republicans were going to be the saviors of your neighborhood. Donald Trump gets up there and goes, middle class housewives, won't you love me? I'm saving your cities. Because he says he's keeping the police. He's keeping the funding. These Republicans got up there and talking about, I am pro police officer, but yet the police officers who had a direct relationship in saving their lives, what do these 21 hypocrites do? I ain't giving them crap. There is a time in everybody's life when they give their life to work or whatever they deem in helping society, that there is a level that you have to be acknowledged. It makes you feel, when people acknowledge you for your good works, it makes you feel useful. When people just use you and your life, I mean, literally, they gave their lives, it turns them from being useful to just used. Like Trump was used by Putin, who on his media channel called Trump a very useful idiot. That's what the Capitol Police feel like. Useful idiots. Putting your life on the line for a group of people who can't say thank you. This is what we're going to do next. We're going to read off that list right after this break.
Our Father, which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done.
Yitkadal v'yitkadash shmei Rabbah, v'alma divra chirutei v'yamlich malchutei.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله.
Our often repeated prayers,
Although we may be different,
Yet similar.
as we reach out to our Creator,
we offer all praise.
And we seek forgiveness.
we ask for peace in our hearts, in our minds, and in our spirits. Amen. Our Father, which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done.
Yitkadal v'yitkedash shmei Rabbah, v'alma divra chirutei v'yamlich malchutei.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله.
Our often repeated prayers,
Although we may be different,
Yet similar.
as we reach out to our Creator,
we offer all praise.
And we seek forgiveness.
we ask for peace in our hearts, in our minds, and in our spirits. Amen.
All right, now I'm going to give you the list. And oh, by the way, that wonderful person who was on Facebook. Oh, and I invite you. You see the little number scrolling. Call in whenever you can. We love to hear what you got to say, and especially on the topic that I have. But going back to the person who left that note for me on Facebook and messaged me, he said, giving the names. Oh, you snitching. No, 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 no. Let me be clear. See, snitching is what you do when you can't fight. Yeah, snitch. See, I don't have a problem. I can back this up. See, I'm telling America about the people that they elect, and the people who they certify as leaders in some of the highest offices in our country. Those people who have sworn to protect the Constitution, the citizens in which they are therefore representing. I'm telling on all of those little idiots who are in office and doing nothing for the people, because that's what this is. This is doing nothing. Now, you want to talk to me about snitching? Why don't you stop snitching? Get on the line, talk to me face to face. But I digress. Let's give the names of those Republicans. From the great state of Kentucky, Thomas Massie, who got on during the Trump campaign as saying, I support the police. Republican from Arizona, Andy Biggs. Andy Biggs came in on the John McCain thing. I mean, if you are supposed to be, filling in the shoes of John McCain was one Republican who stood up for something fundamentally right. From Texas, Michael Cloud. Texas, the big police state. Texas, that has more officers than any state in our nation. He won't support that. And my favorite, Andrew Clyde from Georgia. Representative Clyde, I don't know what's on your mind. Oh yeah, I know what's on your mind. I guess you're a little upset because Georgia basically changed the landscape of the Republican Party in the Senate. Yeah, he's still a little upset about that. Representative Warren Davison from the great state of Ohio. Oh, and my all-time favorite, who will not honor these officers. From Florida, Mr. Under Investigation himself, Matt Gaetz. Talk about a useful idiot, Matt Gaetz. Mr. Trumpeter himself, Matt Gates. Mr. I never had sex with an underage woman in all of my life, except for when I was underage. Matt Gates, whose best friend is snitching. From Texas, again, another Texan, Louis Goldberg. From Virginia, Bob Good. Oh, yes, and the other representative from Arizona, Paul Gosar. And, of course, the darling of QAnon, Miss Future of the Republican Party, none other than our very favorite Marjorie Taylor Greene. Now, and from Maryland, Andy Harris. Shameful. Jody Heiss. From Georgia, another Georgia. Look at that there. Mary Miller from Illinois. I think Illinois has to be the second biggest slap in the face. When you go to Chicago, what do the police call themselves? Tri-Town Finest. Man, so, you know, when she goes back to Illinois, I like to see those police officers just give her a warm welcome. Barry Moore from Alabama. You would expect him to, you know, really understand and award any police officer, providing he ran on cleaning up, you know, the state and helping them to increase their police to clean up crime. You would think he would do that, but no, not this individual. Representative from South Carolina, none other than Mr. Ralph Norman. Oh, and a guy after my own heart from Pennsylvania, Scott Perry. The hypocrisy, Mr. Perry. You sat up there talking about we support our police. We support our police. The Republican Party is for, you know, we don't want to be soft on crime. We want to do everything possible to clean up our streets. We need to make our neighborhoods safer, yet you will not honor a man who gave his life to save you. Representative John Rose from Tennessee. Nothing to say about that character, but Matt Rosendale from Montana. I'm sure your parents are proud of you, Matt. And here we go. Another Texan, Chip Roy. This man's so Texan, he got socks that got the Lone Star on it. Yet he is so pro-Texan, yet anti-police. Here's the BS. And my favorite, another from Florida. You know it. Regs UB. Here's the thing. All of them, every last one of the 21 elite here got on television, soundbite of we support our police. We're not defunding the police. We're doing everything. We're going to give the police everything for those who give their lives to make it safe for us. Every last one of them had said something. In fact, every last one of them have been supported by police unions. Every last one of them have voted not to give an award. Can't say we didn't see it coming. Let's look at this. Every last one of them voted no on getting an investigation of the riot that these guys gave their life for. Every last one said, no, we don't want to find out how it started. We don't want to find out how it happened. We don't want to gain intelligence so that we can prevent it from happening again. Every last one of them voted no for that. Oh, and every last one of them are getting support from the police, yet they're not supporting the police. Talk about being used. Every last one of them have gotten campaign donations from police unions, from police officers. Every last one of them. And let's look at it. Some of those rioters in the Capitol were police officers. So why are we getting the BS? Here's the BS in terms of why they're doing it. Trump, king of the big lie, king of the BS. The Republican Party right now is getting their butt kicked in terms of legislation and policies and bringing things to change our world to make it better for us. They're getting their butt kicked by the Democrats. So since they cannot beat them in terms of ideology and fundamental progress, they are beating them in terms of BS. Too much BS in our lives, people. We've been through enough in the last 18 months. COVID, police violence, poverty, food insecurities, health insecurities. People are dying at an alarming rate. Over 600,000 Americans died needlessly while these guys politicized wearing a mask. We've had enough of this BS. Listen, if you are watching this and I've called out anybody that represents you, why are you sitting up here and not tweeting, not emailing them, not making phone calls, not expressing to them how you are going to vote them out their next term? Am I the only one tired of this? B. You know what I'm talking about. This should be the topic of our understanding and not, that craziness that they wrap us into. This should be what we should be looking at. We should be looking at our elected officials, looking at their performance and holding them accountable. We should be doing. But no, we don't do that because we get beat by the BS. The BS of when you bring it to a Republican's attention of bills that they did not vote for that could help you. They give us the BS of, what about the Democrats this? What about the Democrats that? What about this? What about that? What about this? What about that? We're not talking about that. We're talking about you. Or as my grandfather used to say, we talk about you. We have to stop being beat by the BS. And we got some more BS coming up right after this break. Oh, by the way, all in. We respect your First Amendment rights of freedom of speech. But don't come up here and be a jack, okay? Be right back.
To small business. That's a great way to have generational wealth. If you're a minority business, you may be struggling to keep your head above water. Why? In 2019, the Black community spent $1.5 trillion because the Black dollar lifespan, 28 days Asian communities, 19 days Jewish communities, 6 hours a month in the Black communities. Major brands target the Black media, TV, and radio. That's why Blacks are brand shoppers. That's why they get a big slice of that $1 trillion pie. Your business needs exposure. You got quotes from cable networks and local radio. They charge a lot of money for a little exposure. Networking and social media is a full-time job to get part-time money. Let's look at a successful Black business model. Remember Soul Train? It was a new Black TV show that Johnson Cosmetics increased the exposure of Afro Sheen and made billions of dollars for Bobby Johnson. Where are you going to find a good show for a low price? We have a talk show called What You Got to Say. What You Got to Say is a Black-owned talk show streaming live on YouTube channels, Facebook Live. What You Got to Say has a diverse audience from 18 to 62 years old, and their gross income range from $32,000 to $122,000 a year. That exposure will get you a good slice of the $1.5 trillion. Tell us about your business. May be able to get on our Black-owned spotlight. In 4 weeks, your business can go from surviving to thriving. To find out how you can get what's yours, email sales@squiresignage.com. They're waiting to hear what you got to say.
I rise today, obviously, in vehement opposition to House Bill 118. Politicians, legislatures, this particular legislature, a room full of a majority of men, should not be seeking to impose such personal and traumatizing and cruel religious mandates on women and their families in Pennsylvania. Not now and not ever. This legislation flies in the face of the constitutional separation between church and state. This bill not only insensitively targets women and those experiencing miscarriages, ectopic pregnancies, and abortion at a time of extreme vulnerability, it does so by spreading medical misinformation and violating patients' privacy rights. The measures before us literally limit a woman's ability to make her own decisions about her health care and her family, and shaming or punishing her for those decisions if they differ from the decision that a majority of the people in this room want to make for her. The fact that women from my caucus have had to stand up here and share the stories that they could barely share with their own families, stories of infertility, loss of pregnancy, and termination, in order to stop the advancement of a bill that will hurt countless more women and families, is just wrong. At a time when we should be coming together and discussing how to pull Pennsylvania out of the grips of COVID-19 and invest in our future and invest in women who we know bore a disproportionate amount of the impact of COVID-19. And instead, we're here focusing on a distraction, debating a bill that will never become law. But this feels normal for far too many of us. This is just another act in a political theater that has plagued this chamber for far too long. We are a legislature that has met more to remove mask mandates, strip executive emergency powers, and overturn free and fair elections than we have to make strategic investments in Pennsylvania's women, children, and families. Lastly, Mr. Speaker, it is not lost on me, and I'm sure it's not lost on many of the members here today, that this legislation is just one more unnecessary overreach in a grossly, predictably misogynistic agenda. An agenda pursued by by a party that is 100% white in a chamber that is 70% male. Oh, your boos mean
Mr.
nothing.
Speaker, that's enough.
Your boos mean nothing to me. I've seen who you cheer for.
The gentleman will suspend.
Mr. Speaker,
For what purpose does the majority leader rise?
I believe these comments are inflammatory to our members and to this esteemed chamber. We have tried to give latitude on this issue, both yesterday and today, but I will not have our members impugned or insulted or this kind of behavior on this floor.
Are you not 100% white?
Gentleman is out of order.
100% white, 70% male.
Mr. Speaker.
Turn off his mic.
Okay, that's what I'm talking about. That is a leader. That is someone who is representing his district well. Pennsylvania House Representative Brian Sims, look at it, standing up. Now, this man, Democrat, standing up, majority Republican Senate, majority Republican state representatives, majority Republican everything. He is not the most popular thing in the room. In fact, he would be the equivalent of a black man being invited to a Klan rally. Okay, now this man stands up and tells them their wrongs to their face. That ain't snitching. That's telling, okay, to your face. And again, the BS comes. He shut off his mic. We don't want to hear the truth. We're going to shut off your mic. Hold on. Memorial Day, a lieutenant colonel stood before that all-white town, sponsored by the VFW, and he expressed to, now, white lieutenant colonel, he expressed all the white people. Memorial Day was founded by people of color. singing the Union John Brown's song. I mean, praising the Civil War veterans who've given their life, who have given the ultimate sacrifice for equality, for freedom, for a better chance, for maybe the opportunity of a better life. At a parade. In that parade, they carried flowers to the grave to give honor to those who have fought for their freedom. All right. They don't like the truth. They can't handle the truth. So what do? Cut his mic. The new trend for 2021 is when someone tells you the truth, cut their mic. Just like people right now wishing that they could cut my mic. Sorry, it ain't gonna happen. So here we have it. We've got BS. We've got too much BS in our life. Way too much BS in our life. And we need a more simpler life. We have BS with our state representatives wanting us not to tell the truth. They don't want to tell the truth about the African American experience. They don't want to tell the truth about the African American contributions. They don't want you to tell the truth about what they're doing to stop the truth. They don't want to tell the truth and the news to get out about the gerrymandering, the redistricting. They don't want you to hear the truth about the SBA and its minority set-aside contracts. Do you know the biggest recipient of minority contracts from the SBA loan department happen to be white women? Construction contracts. White women own multi-million-dollar construction companies. They just happen to be ran and managed by their white husbands. They're getting these loans and grants and contracts for a minority, which used to mean person of color, contract. So a white woman who is considered a minority, yet white, represents a company which is ran by her white husband, who is the majority, yet the loophole is that they're getting billions in contracts that are set aside for minorities, quote unquote, non-white. And it's happening. People don't want you to hear the truth. We just keep getting beat for the BS. I'll be right back. 2 minutes, 2 seconds.
Our Father, which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done.
Yitkadal v'yitkedash shmei Rabbah, v'alma divra chirutei v'yamlich malchutei.
A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Alhamdulillah.
Our often repeated prayers,
Although we may be different,
Yet similar.
as we reach out to our Creator,
we offer all praise.
And we seek forgiveness.
we ask for peace in our hearts, in our minds, and in our spirits. Amen.
That's what I'm talking about. Hey, it is way too much BS in our life. You see that? That's BS. Okay, so let's look at the BS. He wants and has been fighting to not reveal his camera, the video, his body cam. Okay. Now, the reason your tax dollars gets officers body cams is so that we have a system of check and balance. In our society, we have way too many events in which police officers do heinous and horrible crimes, yet the courts consistently on a verge of it's not even 9-1. It's like 9.9993 will take the side of a police officer. So what does that mean? In our history, in our society, the police officers have been skilled writers. They will do stuff and make a police report. And this writing is so good. Some of these officers should be getting a Pulitzer for fiction. Yeah, so, okay, we're gonna remedy that. We're gonna get a body cam to, make sure that our officers are following procedure, to make sure that this is what they call when I was an MP, they would call it a righteous bust, which means you have done everything by the procedures. And it's what you're supposed to do. Because when you're a police officer, you're supposed to be the good guy. You're supposed to be the savior. You're supposed to be the help that a victim needs. Yet, what we're finding out is that police officers are the biggest perpetrators of the crime because they don't care if that person is guilty or innocent. They just want to solve the crime. And whatever means necessary to solve the crime, they don't care as long as somebody is accountable, which, hey, if you understand what happens with a person of color, because of course, there's always the barrier of you being a person of color. The second thing is that it's difficult to make it with the barriers, you being a person of color. And then that climb or that road to redemption is even harder when you have a criminal record. In fact, the last study says that a person locked up, a African-American person of color, locked up, the damage of that doesn't recuperate for at least 3 generations. 3 generations. Majority of them are taking jobs which are under the table, which means they are making below minimum wage for a lot of them, because these are the only people in which will hire them. Now, they did that national thing called ban the box, where you have to check if you've got a criminal record. Okay, ban the box. Here's the loophole for ban the box. They can therefore, after reading your application, saying, okay, this is your second interview. Do you have a criminal record? And you say, honestly, yes. Now it's checked. You're not getting that job. Move on. Why? Because most employers believe the police. So if the police arrested you, you must have done something wrong. Okay, but I digress. So they get this guy. He's got a body cam. He commits a crime. They want to enter the evidence of the body cam into court. He doesn't want to do that. No. Okay, so if you're the good guy, what do you have to hide in this body cam that you don't want out in court? Could it be your guilt? Or could it be that you lied? Or could it be that you are sending, or could it be that you have actually done the act of hurting someone? with extreme violence, unnecessary violence? Yes, that's the only reason. Because an innocent man who has an actual videotape doesn't hesitate. Oh, that. Right. Exonerate me. The BS in our lives. I'm just so tired of BS. We've got so much BS that we can fertilize the desert and grow crops. We've got some more coming for you right after this break.
To small business. That's a great way to have generational wealth. If you're a minority business, you may be struggling to keep your head above water. Why? In 2019, the Black community spent $1.5 trillion because the Black dollar lifespan, 28 days Asian communities, 19 days Jewish communities, 6 hours a month in the Black communities. Major brands target the Black media, TV, and radio. That's why Blacks are brand shoppers. That's why they get a big slice of that $1 trillion pie. Your business needs exposure. You got quotes from cable networks and local radio. They charge a lot of money for a little exposure. Networking and social media is a full-time job to get part-time money. Let's look at a successful Black business model. Remember Soul Train? It was a new Black TV show that Johnson Cosmetics increased the exposure of Afro Sheen and made billions of dollars for Bobby Johnson. Where are you going to find a good show for a low price? We have a talk show called What You Got to Say. What You Got to Say is a Black-owned talk show streaming live on YouTube channels, Facebook Live. What You Got to Say has a diverse audience from 18 to 62 years old, and their gross income range from $32,000 to $122,000 a year. That exposure will get you a good slice of the $1.5 trillion. Tell us about your business. May be able to get on our Black-owned spotlight. In 4 weeks, your business can go from surviving to thriving. To find out how you can get what's yours, email sales@squiresignage.com. They're waiting to hear what you got to say.
All right. In our world, our president, Joseph Biden, had reported and went to the G7 summit. This is what's kicking me in the can. Here's the BS. Joe Biden went there and he came out a hero. Why? He put a matching fund and pledged 500 million, $500 million COVID vaccines. Hero on a global scale. Joe Biden said America's back in being the leader in the world, which was refreshing. And everybody on the world scale is praising Joe Biden for his efforts. In fact, most countries now are starting to match that. So places like India, where COVID is running rampant and deaths are at an alarming rate, can get the vaccines needed to keep their people alive. Here's the BS, that Joe Biden is a hero on a world stage. Why? Well, let's see. Our last president, 45, got there and he just electrified the entire G7 summit by saying, America's going on our own. F you, F you, F you, you too, or Russia, you cool, we cool. Although you're not a NATO ally, you're cool. In fact, he went there and he said, now, when American intelligence, one of the most sophisticated and accurate intelligence agencies, okay, and what American intelligence said, the Russians interfered in our presidential election, which got you elected. He says, I'm going to talk to Putin about that. He talked to Putin and goes, well, Putin said that he didn't do it, and I believe Putin. The BS. Trump then, therefore, pulled us out of NATO. which was started by the United States to give advance warning of any groups or movements in any of the NATO or joining groups, any movement towards them, we would give advance warning. Not only that, but we also have a NATO force to handle that advanced departure to stop the aggression as we all get together and then take over and neutralize the aggression. Trump said, we're out. We're going to go alone. We don't need you. Trump did one of the most foolish things in American history by pulling out on our allies and the Kurds, leaving them to be destroyed by the Russians. That was the only thing standing between them having a life and the Russians was us. He pulled out, said, oh no, this is the never-ending war, and we're ending it. Yes, you did. You ended our participation in the war. Yet you now set those people up to be killed. Our allies. People who are supposed to like us and help us. So Biden goes and he says, we're back. And now he's like a breath of fresh air. Here's another part of the BS. Our president has the presence and the mindset to realize that we cannot go it alone and that it's our diversity that makes us strong. Our president has the mindset to do that on a world scale. Yet, in our own country, the policies and plans in which he wants to implement, we can't do. Why? Because we have Republican senators who are believing the big lie and telling the big lie. Like the insurrection was just a day at picnic, and everybody was just visiting the Capitol. We have politicians and obstructionists, Republicans, who are doing things to stop the George Floyd bill, which keeps a lot of Americans of color safe from police. The John Lewis Act, which basically stops the realigning of districts and Republican rule in predominantly Black neighborhoods, and stops the voter fraud, voter intimidation, voter tampering, and our president, who wants to pass and sign bills for infrastructure that helps all Americans, every last state. But it stopped. Yeah, we can end that by ending the filibuster, which we know the filibuster was established to stop the progression of African Americans or former slaves and to oppress them into power. Part of critical race theory, where the laws were in place to oppress the other. So the filibuster came handy when they started to now wanting to change the laws to end the oppression. No. We got a filibuster. Oh, by the way, who has the record for the longest filibuster? A racist senator named Strom Thurmond. Yes, he stopped everything, including the Civil Rights Bill, by standing before the Senate and giving a 24-hour, 32-minute speech. The filibuster. Oh, by the way, Strom Thurmond was such a racist, we found out that he has a Black daughter because he had how can I say it nicely? He had a consensual affair with his housekeeper. Yes, he hates people of color so much that he fathers them. Okay, but I digress. The filibuster. But the filibuster is being blocked right now. We can eliminate the filibuster in the Senate. We can win by a majority vote, which is 51, because we have Kamala Harris on the Democratic side. The Republicans have 50. We can eliminate the filibuster, right? Wrong, because we've got a Republican who is a Democratic senator named Manchin. BS. we've got too much BS in our life. And we keep getting baffled by the BS and not making progress. Let's look at the power of voting in America and how the corporation of white supremacy wants to stop that. The greatest election intimidation or voter intimidation happened in Florida. Occoquan. Oh no, Ocee. Ocee, Florida. 1800s. The 1800s, where they ended the Civil War, and that stretch of land in Florida in which the president had given them in terms of reparations, Civil War reparations. The president decided that this land confiscated from the Confederate landowner, who was also a member of the Confederate Army. This stretch of miles in Florida, coastal, should be given to the former slaves. And a AME pastor was the leader of that conversation at that time. And the president said to them, after, of course, this is the president who took over after Lincoln's assassination. He said, well, can we give them? I'm sorry, during Lincoln. He said, well, what else can we give them? And he said, well, we've got some surplus mules. So we can divide up every resident and they can get 40 acres. And we've got the surplus mules, so we'll give them a mule. Henceforth, the 40 acres and a mule. That was throttled when President Lincoln was assassinated. Now, keep in mind, the vice president, therefore, said, oh, no, I'm the president, and that ain't going to happen. So these slave owners got, oh, by the way, people think vice president is actual an honor, but looking at the history of the vice president, in American politics, the vice president was the second runner-up. So whoever won, who got the popular vote, became the president. And the next popular vote became the vice president, which caused way too much conflict. So at some point, they changed the laws and said that the president would appoint his vice president. But vice is Latin for adverse. So at this time, he was truly, during the time of Lincoln, his vice president was truly adverse. So he rebirthed everything that Lincoln did, canceling the 40 acres and a mule. These people in Florida decided to buy the land with their own money, savings, and whatever the case may be, and started to grow, to prosper. Booming town. Now, election day suppression. They tried to intimidate them. It did not work. And there was one man who stood out in the community, and he was the leader of the community because he was a broker for both the blacks and the whites, respected by both. The Klan came to him and told him, I don't want you darkies voting. Well, this man was tough as nails. He wasn't no sissy. So he stood up to him. They decided to come up to his house the next day. And what he did was he got his family out of the house and he held them off, killing 2 Klan members. They got outraged. By the way, the sheriff at that particular time, he was a Klan member too. So he therefore deputized the Klan to come and get him. So they got him, beat him, tied him to the bumper of the car, and dragged him. This was in, now we're talking 1920. They dragged him to prison, half dead. That wasn't good enough. He still was not going to tell people to not vote. That angered them. So the now deputized Klan took off their deputy badges, put on their white hoods, stormed the police. Oh, by the way, the person that they wanted him to vote against was a Republican named Richard Cheney. He was running for governor. So they stormed the prison, took him out, killed him, and hung him on the same block of the man that the black vote was going to elect, Mr. Cheney. Then that wasn't good enough in terms of intimidation. They therefore went into this neighborhood and killed and massacred people and threw their bodies in the ocean. That was the greatest election intimidation in American history. Read up on it. I'll be right back in just 1 second.
Into small business. That's a great way to have generational wealth. If you're a minority business, you may be struggling to keep your head above water. Why? In 2019, the Black community spent $1.5 trillion because the Black dollar lifespan, 28 days Asian communities, 19 days Jewish communities, 6 hours a month in the Black communities. Major brands target the Black media, TV, and radio. That's why Blacks are brand shoppers. That's why they get a big slice of that $1 trillion pie. Your business needs exposure. You got quotes from cable networks and local radio. They charge a lot of money for a little exposure. Networking and social media is a full-time job to get part-time money. Let's look at a successful Black business model. Remember Soul Train? It was a new Black TV show that Johnson Cosmetics increased the exposure of Afro Sheen and made billions of dollars for Bobby Johnson. Where are you gonna find a good show for a low price? We have a talk show called What You Got to Say. What You Got to Say is a Black-owned talk show streaming live on YouTube channels, Facebook Live. What You Got to Say has a diverse audience from 18 to 62 years old, and their gross income range from $32,000 to $122,000 a year. That exposure will get you a good slice of the $1.5 trillion. Tell us about your business. Maybe able to get on our Black-owned spotlight. In 4 weeks, your business can go from surviving to thriving. To find out how you can get what's yours, email sales@squiresignage.com. They're waiting to hear what you got to say.
We've got too much BS in our lives. And here is the most important thing about it. The person who will be better to clean up the BS in our lives is you. You are the one hero that this country needs. You are the one hero that can make the phone calls to get on these senators who are voting against policies that basically do not serve us. You are the one person to call people, to give them information when things aren't going right. You are the one person to speak truth to power and remind them that they've gotten into power by your vote. You are the one person to fight for truth and that our children know the truth. Because in them knowing the truth doesn't give them shame of their heritage and their history. Them knowing the truth empowers them to make better decisions and to get better understanding of their neighbors. You are the one to make the change. The only person who can clean up the BS in your backyard is you. Because it's your backyard. And I'm not talking about just nationally. We saw what happened in the state Senate and our representatives. We see what happens with our school districts. We see what happens in our cities. It can only be cleaned up by us, each and every one of us. We can take 2 minutes instead of seeing the next twerking video to send an email to a representative, to a congressman, to a senator, to a friend, and tell them, stop the BS. But I digress. As I always say, my favorite prophet, Marvin Gaye, war is not the answer because only love can conquer hate. You need to have love for yourself and your fellow man. You need to have enough love to make